Well, I know I'm on here, but my internet is acting so strangely.
Oh,
But I know we're on because I'm checking on my phone.
right.
Something about my computer.
You froze up. You froze up for a second.
Yeah, am I still connected to you?
Yeah, it's good now.
Okay. All right, I think we got it now. Yeah. Yeah. Oh. Sounds great. Bass solo.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. All right. I was waiting for the bass solo, man.
Okay.
Took a while.
Usually they fade. They fade when it gets to the bass solo.
I know. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest today is Ed Bennett. He used to live in LA, so we actually knew each other from back then, but he's been coming on to the show and making good comments. And so here we are. We're on the show.
And seeing a lot of friends that I haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah, it's pretty fun, isn't it?
Yeah. And Amy, I haven't really, maybe I should make an effort to, come back and play there,
Every now and then.
Yeah. I kind of lost contact with a lot of people.
Who did you play with a lot when you were down here?
Kent Glenn. Did you know Kent?
Yeah, that was a long time ago. Boy.
Yeah, he passed away in 2004. He had he moved to New York. He was living in New Jersey, and also I don't know if you knew Jack Ranelli.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Jack, it's funny. I met Jack on it was a society gig at the.
Oh really?
What's the place called? The Lively Arts Comedy. It was this huge building downtown. The magicians, entertainers. It was like 6 floors.
Yeah.
Lively Arts, and we were doing this gig with a violin player, and right from the first tune, I his time was solid, and we really hooked up. And he was my main drummer I played with. Gene Stone played with Gene.
Yeah, see now all the guys you mentioned are dead.
Right. I know. It's happening. I'm getting to that age where even my peers have passed. Some of them have passed away.
And that was a long time ago that all of them died. Actually, Gene.
Yeah, well, Gene was recently.
Kind of recently, like
3 years ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
I think it was a little longer because the pandemic has been about 2 years, right?
Yeah.
And so I'd say 5 or 6 years ago. Yeah. I was good friends with Gene. Loved Gene. And they were that group of people, Kent Glenn, and I don't know about Jack Ranelli so much, but they were also involved with Stephanie Haynes. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah, I worked with Stephanie. Yeah, we were good friends.
Yeah, another dead person.
God.
See, that's her and me.
Oh, yeah.
Very young.
Mm-hmm.
Probably when you were here, actually,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a really good time in LA.
Oh, yeah.
It was not too crowded. It didn't, I mean, the musician family was solid, but didn't seem as wildly spread out and so diverse, the jazz scene, you know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, back then, yeah.
Yeah.
And, there was, I don't know if there's more clubs or,
I think there were more clubs.
especially in the valley.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I used to play a bunch of them on Ventura Boulevard, and I can't remember the names.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, now that we're talking about that, I'm just going to see if I can quickly find something. I don't know if I can or not, but it's kind of funny. What it is I don't know where I put it in my files. No, I can't find it. But let's see. Let's just see if I can find this. Paul Kryvik, you remember?
Oh,
Paul?
yeah, I played with Paul a lot too.
Yeah. So he, of course, only Paul would do this. I mean, in this time and age, but he made a list of the clubs that we had.
Oh, I did see that. Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
That was funny, man. Only Paul Kryvik would do something like that. I don't know where I put it, but pretty funny. Yeah, and yeah, it's just amazing. I mean, it's not just, hi, John Hammond. I see you watching. You're going to be on this show one of these days. I keep asking John Hammond to be on the show. So, so he must have come on because you're here. He must have seen your name.
John Hammond, the piano player.
Yeah.
Yeah, we maybe worked a couple times.
I'm sure you did.
Yeah,
he was working a lot during that time too. Actually, he was working a lot at the Playboy Club. Remember that gig, the Playboy?
Oh, yeah.
Had a really nice gig.
I worked there in the living room, or I don't know, with Carmen. We did a week there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Holy moly. Well, so Ed lives in Oregon?
Portland, Oregon.
Is that where you've been all this time?
Yeah, for the last 31 years.
Yeah, because it's funny. I don't think in my travels to Oregon that we connected, right? I don't think so.
Have you been to Portland?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, not a huge amount, but I've been there. I don't remember. Yeah, I played a little bit, but not in any place big, in kind of small places. And Nancy King was a friend of mine. I mean, she is a friend of mine, but she's kind of a recluse at this moment,
Yeah, well, I've been in touch with her a bunch. There's helping her out because she's had some, she just finally got her hip replacement.
Oh, she did.
And she's recuperating, and she just moved back to her house. But I mean, her mind and her body, her mind and heart are real good, but other things are old,
Yeah.
But she's hopefully going to be singing again, maybe in a couple months. Or
I hope so. She's hard to reach,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, actually hard to reach.
No,
I sent her something, while she was waiting in the hospital. I sent her something. I forget who was kind of collecting stuff. Another singer, I think. Yeah. I mean, she's basically one of the heroes of my tribe,
Yeah, oh, yeah. Of the Pacific Northwest and the world. I mean,
yeah, definitely.
It's funny. About 4 years ago, Nancy had like a couple storage units, and she wanted me to pick up these several boxes of cassettes. And during the 70s and 80s, she had this Sony boombox that recorded pretty well, and she recorded all her gigs at clubs. And so there's like over 200 cassettes, and over a 4-year period, I have them, and I digitize them all.
You did?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it's you turn the cassette machine on and let it go on the computer, and timer goes off 45 minutes, turn it over, and I edited them, and so they're preserved. I mean, they're clubs, so they're kind of noisy at times with talking, but you can hear everything.
What are you going to do with them?
Well, I was going to give it back to Nancy, and there's a gal who is doing the jazz vocals at Portland State, Sherry Alvis. She's part of the program there, and she was doing her master's dissertation on Nancy.
Oh.
And she's using some of this audio stuff. And I gave her, it's funny, I put it all on a little flash zip drive, like 20 or 30 years of music,
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm sure there's going to be some kind of expansion with that. I mean, that should go out. It would be nice if somebody actually bought that from her and put it out even digitally, like a compilation.
I think Portland State will use it in their archives or something.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking more of some, some commercial venture that actually would flow her money for it. And
yeah. I don't know if they're that great of quality for a release, but it's there. I have it. I got a copy.
Oh man, Ed, that is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Corey Waterman is here.
Oh yeah, Corey. Hi.
And says hello. And Corey says, I remember that boombox. She got a smaller recorder, late 80s.
Yeah.
And Taylor Hatch says hi.
All right. But it was fun growing up in LA. And at the time, if you wanted to be a professional bassist, this is during the I started playing when I was 11 or 12, and actually my first instrument was accordion.
I know a few of you people.
I have two brothers, and my middle brother was taking classical piano lessons from his teacher who was Russian, and I wanted to play something, so he had an accordion, and I learned some Russian folk songs and learned the buttons. And then when I got into junior high, I wanted to play in the orchestra. And
they didn't have accordion in the park.
Well, unless you're playing Shostakovich, maybe. And so I guess I had my choice of string instruments, and for some reason I just chose the bass. And that's how it started.
Were you tall?
No. I'm 5'8" or 9.
Yeah,
maybe.
I just thought maybe if you're a kid and you're kind of tall, you might go to the bass.
Yeah, no, I don't know why. It just happened.
Yeah, I actually wanted to play violin. I almost felt like I felt a familiarity with violin, which was weird because in my house we didn't listen to violin music. We only listened to mostly jazz, and then when the pop world started really coming in, to our age group, we were there. But I wanted to play the violin, and my mother made me play flute. She said I had the perfect lips for flute.
Oh.
So I think she just didn't want to hear violin being practiced.
Yeah.
But that was cool. I went to Berkeley with flute, so it's okay.
Yeah.
Did you have siblings?
Yeah, I have two brothers, and one is
of course, one played piano, and
the other one, no, he wasn't really into music. Played a little trumpet. But my brother Joel, who played classical piano from like 7 to 12, and he kind of stopped playing, and then in the last 25 years, he kind of got into salsa, Latin music, and he lives up in Sonoma County, and he's been playing. He has his own group, with horns, and
cool.
We're doing gigs, so he's playing, Latin piano, jazz piano.
Cool. Do you guys play together?
I sat in a couple of years ago when I was up there with this band, but I was playing they had a baby bass, one of those electric
Oh.
baby basses. But no, and my folks, would listen to big band music when I was
Yeah.
growing up, and
Yeah.
my oldest brother had a friend, Dan, and his dad was Dave Kavanaugh. I don't know if you know, he was a big producer at Capitol Records, like Sinatra and all those people, and my parents went to their house parties, and Nat Cole was there, and all these people. But I was, I started on the bass, and just shortly after I started playing the bass, I was recruited into a Dixieland band. I was 13 maybe, and the dad was the manager, and he had three sons. One of them played clarinet, the other one played tenor, and one played trumpet, and I played bass. We had a drummer, piano, guitar, banjo player, trombone, and we rehearsed once a week. My dad had to schlep me to where was it? It was like a half mile over the past Santa Monica, and we rehearsed, and we played USO clubs, just all freebies pretty much, and county fairs. And he had these two older guys, musicians, come in to help us rehearse, and they wrote some charts. At the time, I didn't know people, and they were Lenny Niehaus and lead trumpet player Bud Brisboe. Bud Brisboe, who was an LA lead trumpet player. So that was my introduction to jazz, was Dixieland. And
interesting. And no less Lenny Niehaus writing charts for that.
I didn't know who he was. He's just a guy that could rehearse us.
Nice guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. So were you listening to jazz? Did you have some mentors going on, or were you fascinated with jazz?
Yeah, when I was about 13, I got hooked up with a teacher. It was all legit classical, and this bass method, Mandel, which is the German bass method, and using the German bow. And I learned positions, and kind of, because before I was kind of doing the bear grab off the neck. So I learned the technique and classical music, and my teacher knew I was interested in jazz, and he got me a transcribed solo of who was the guy? He played in the big bands, Eddie Safransky.
Eddie Safransky, huh? Okay.
Yeah, Safransky, and it was this transcribed solo that I learned. But I do remember in high school. In high school, I was playing in the big band and orchestra, and I had this. It was a APS, a science class, and the guy next to me, he kind of dug jazz, and he says, "Oh man, you got to listen to this jazz station, KBCA." Right, that's what it was called then. And with Chuck Niles, and there was one show. What was the guy's name? Something like Slow Traffic to the Right, in the fast lane. I forgot.
Wow, very cool.
And I started listening to the radio, jazz radio, and I was always interested. But I didn't do any small group playing until I started college.
Yeah.
And I went after high school. I went to LA Valley College.
Wow.
And they had a great music department. I took harmony, sight singing, copying. There's a guy using those.
Wasn't copying great?
Yeah, I mean, you have those. There's a name for those pens. I can't remember. And you hold them in a certain way.
I had that pen. I don't know. I still might have that pen
Yeah,
because I loved it. There was something about that pen and the
hmm
ink, right?
yeah.
Remember the ink? You had to kind
Oh,
of
it's
open, yeah. And then the way that you wrote the notes, there was kind of an art to that.
yeah.
Oh, I loved that. I don't know why that, but I just really dug that.
I never was too good at it. Using those pens. And yeah, so I started there. This was 1970. That was the same time where I met John Clayton because he started
Oh,
college there, LA Valley College.
yeah.
And but if going to college, and if you wanted to be a professional bassist, you could play upright, and got to play electric at
Yep.
the time, and some guys played tuba, right?
Oh,
Yeah. And my teacher, when he was younger, played tuba. He was on
so are you saying that bass and tuba were kind of a natural
a
pairing?
double, yeah, like a
Oh, I
red.
didn't know that.
I can't think of the bass one now. Yeah, back in the 40s and 50s, and my
Oh,
teacher was kind of played in major orchestras and was in the studio scene. Nat Gangursky was his name, and
huh.
he was a bass player, played on the Dragnet series, like the opening theme. But
Do you remember
yeah,
how that goes?
no, I don't.
I don't either. I could tell you Perry Mason because I watch Perry Mason every day. Da-da-da. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, so it's interesting that that's a pairing. I didn't realize that that was a kind of
It
a
was back
double.
then.
Yeah. And so yeah, so when did you get did you were you doing a lot of stuff before I can imagine you were very experienced before you got into Carmen McRae's band.
Yeah. Well, actually, the funny in high school, I
Yeah.
got in this band. The original band was like a Tijuana brass kind of thing, and then
Which is great.
we started getting gigs like just through word of mouth, like bar mitzvahs, weddings, through family, cousins, friends. I don't,
Yeah.
and uh, we would play a thing, a gig. And it might be 3 hours, 4 hours, and actually, I was probably playing electric bass with that band, and we would make 30, 40, $35. And I had friends.
I hope each.
Yes.
Okay.
And I had friends in high school that maybe had a job after school at a gas station or something, and they worked the whole week, and they made $30. I said, "Hey, this is for me, music." Yeah,
Ah, the reasons why we'd go into
uh,
music.
yeah,
Yeah,
and it's fun.
pretty funny.
And playing music. I love playing music, and and so I was doing that, and in college I was meeting some people, piano players, and did some gigs here and there.
Uh-huh.
And the next year I was accepted to Berkeley in Boston,
What
and I
year was
went
that?
1972.
So we went to Berkeley together. I totally
Uh,
forgot.
you were there, okay?
Yeah, I was there
Well,
72 to 75.
you were there longer than me. I only made it a semester. I didn't dig it that much.
Yeah.
Uh, I did a lot of playing. That was the best part, and
Yeah.
even out in school and outside of school. And I worked. I was starting to play, and I did a week gig as a student at the jazz workshop with Victor Brazil and Claudio Roditi. They had a
Nice.
quintet. I think piano player was Ted Saunders.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know where he is, and
He's here.
is he? There's a
Theo,
Theo.
Ted.
Is it?
He's the
Maybe it's
same
the same
person.
guy.
Yeah, I'm
Is
pretty
it?
sure it
Oh,
is. Yeah.
yeah. And but I only stayed there a semester, and at the time I had a friend from LA. I forgot his name, and he had moved to Ketchikan, Alaska, and I was corresponding with him and talking. He says, "Hey, I got a gig. We can work up here. So I took my bass. I shipped some stuff back home. I took my bass and one suitcase. I took a bus up to Montreal in a Greyhound.
Wow.
I took the train across Canada. They wouldn't let me take my bass in the car, and I had to put it in the mailbag train.
Wow.
So it was sitting on top of the mailbag, so I felt it was fairly safe and no one messes with it. And I made it to Ketchikan, and I was going to stay with his uncle and aunt, and I got there, and he wasn't there. he had a medical emergency, and he had to go back down to LA. And I think he had like Bell's palsy. And so I ended up staying with his aunt and uncle for a couple of weeks. And actually, I was looking for any kind of job, at the fish cannery or something. And my friend eventually came back, and we worked a couple of gigs, and that was it. And I made myself. I went my way home back to LA.
Oh my God, that's funny.
Yeah.
That's a funny little detour.
And,
So okay,
yeah.
so this is you're going through your whole life story. So how did you get up to? I mean, was Carmen the first kind of big gig you had, or no?
Yeah, I would say. Well, I worked with Spoon, Jimmy Witherspoon, for about a year, toured with him, and one of the reasons I did it because I was able to play my uprights.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you if you played upright or electric with him.
Yeah, I mean, I originally was an upright player.
Yeah,
and then got into electric, and I'm gonna say, I did some jingles and some studio stuff in the 70s, but at that time, I mean, in LA, I mean, to me, electric bass players, they were a dime a dozen, and great ones. I heard so many great electric bass players, and I was doing gigs on electric bass here and there, like all kinds of odd things. Played with stars of the Lawrence Welk show. Did a tour with them. Did a tour with Johnny. What's the guy's name? Man, what's his name?
You can't remember everything, Ed.
I know. It was a bicentennial. Johnny Mann and the Johnny Mann Singers.
Oh, that name kind of rings a bell.
We did a thing for the bicentennial, like it was a bus tour back east, and did all these country western medley, armed forces medley, and we had like 3 guy and 3 girl singers. But I with Carmen, I'm sure every bass player in LA played with her at one point or another.
I think so. I don't know, man. I mean, John Gianelli.
I mean, some people for a very short period, some people for longer periods.
Yeah.
I was with her for a couple of years, and when I first started,
who was the drummer? Was it Frank Severino?
No, Joey Barron.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, Joey came out with 2 friends, a piano player, Bill Lohr. I don't know if you knew Bill. And
he was my piano player.
Okay, yeah. His first wife at the time was a singer, and those guys earlier in the 70s had like a band that played at Holiday Inns, like a top 40 cover band. Yeah. And Joey wanted to come to LA and work with Carmen. That's why he came here. And so I auditioned at her house with Carmen, with Joey and Marshall Otwell was playing.
Oh, yeah.
And got the gig, and we toured. I was with her. I had a little break with her, and then I came back and recorded a couple albums with her. And
how was that experience?
Carmen, I always say it was the good, bad, and the ugly. I mean, she she left Joey alone for the most. Yeah, she didn't. But me and Marshall, she would. I mean, yeah, she would, tell you what's wrong on stage and off.
I saw her do stuff on stage.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, there were times, and boy, man, I love when she would sit down on the piano and play and herself and sing, do ballads. Or I loved her version of Miss Otis Regrets. She, So we did a live album in San Francisco, live at the Great American Music Hall.
Oh, I love that record.
Yeah. And it just came out on CD about 4 or 5 years ago. But
great record.
one of the first gigs we did was in Chicago at a place called Ratso's.
Oh.
It was a short-lived venue that was there for about 3 years, and the sound man recorded everything. And about 6 or 7 years ago, a guy contacted me from LA. I forgot his name. He had a company called Hitchcock Records, which their specialty is releasing unreleased live performances. And he got the rights from Carmen's estate to release this Ratsos thing that they recorded, and they put that out. It's like a double CD, and actually, I supplied some of the photos he used that I had, and he paid us too, which was pretty amazing.
Yeah,
and so that one, and then we did a thing for Blue Note at the Hollywood Palladium. They did what was it called? Blue Note Hits a New Note. So they had all these Blue Note artists, Carmen and who were the others? I can't remember. And they released that, and so those were the recordings I did with Carmen.
cool.
But it was interesting. I mean, I love her singing, but I heard Frank's. Well, after Joey left, there was a couple other drummers, and Bill Lord did it for a short period, and I think Marshall came back at one point, and Frank Severino was on the gig for a couple months, and Frank told me some stories about bass players that had played with her. And she would kind of like see where you were at, how you would react to stuff she would say about non-musical or musical, non-musical things. And the story that Frank told me, I guess I can use it on here. Jeff Castleman, the bass player who he had worked with Sarah Vaughan, and he got off the gig and he started working with Carmen. I think the first night they did a set, and she called him in after the set, and Carmen said, "When I heard you with Sass, you were playing your ass off, and you ain't playing for me." And Jeff looks there and says, "Well, man, you don't sing like Sass." And after that, everything was cool. And, so I mean, her mood, and another story Frank told me was Norman Simmons, who had worked with her for years in the 60s. They were on a gig in New York, and she called a ballad, and Norman played a little arpeggio, and she turns around and he says, "What the was that?" And Norman looks at his hands and fingers. He says, "That's the same damn chord I've been playing for 8 years." And everyone broke up. Everyone's laughing. So there's stuff like that.
See her. I saw her at the Parisian Room. There was hardly anyone in the audience for some weird reason, and she literally kicked the piano player off the bench and sat down. And I just thought, oh God, he must have been so humiliated. I don't even know who it was. I don't know the band.
I was there maybe.
Really?
Because there was a period where she didn't have a piano player, and this great pianist, Don Abney, he was like the Hank Jones of the West Coast. I mean, he worked with everyone. And Leonard Feather wrote a review and talked about that. She demolished him on stage. And this guy it's like probably one of the better trios with Carmen and Frank Severino was playing and Don Abney. And it was too bad. She was giving crap all week. I don't know why.
She probably did that a lot, you know, because
Yeah.
Frank wouldn't have been on the gig because I knew Frank when I worked at Dante's, which was when I first got here. And but he was not working with her then. And as a matter of fact, his story of how it ended, because he worked with her a long time.
Oh, yeah.
And Marshall came in, you know, to take the piano chair. And he told Frank how much he was getting, which was more than Frank was getting after years of working with her. And
Right.
when he approached her and he said, "Why is that?" And she said, "You didn't ask." And so he quit.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Anyway, jazz, I mean, you know, everybody's a character, really. You don't have to be a jazz person, and you don't have to be a musician to be a character, you know.
Yeah. I mean, even with Marshall, when I first got a gig, I think we were in Denver, and everything he played, wrong, wrong, wrong.
Jeez. Oh my God.
So,
Oh,
but
yeah, when I hear stories like that, it just hurts. It hurts me. So in between husbands, I had a boyfriend, Harold Bennett. I don't know.
okay.
Did you?
No.
I don't know if you ever. Anyway,
Oh,
he was from Houston, and he was a sax player. And he said when he was coming up, like one time he went to sit in, called a song in whatever B flat,
mhm.
and the drummer said to the band, "Play it in B." And they just fucked around with him, man.
Okay.
Just
Wow.
why? Why?
Yeah.
Why would you?
Huh.
You know, that's it's not respectful.
Yeah.
It's not
Oh, yeah.
anything, you know, it's like terrible. That's what it is.
Mhm.
I don't know
Yeah.
why. I don't know why some guys ended up like that. It's just very weird.
Talking about just calling keys. I mean, Nancy King, good to Nancy.
Yeah.
She's the first person a singer I work with that asked me what key I want to do it in. Yeah.
I know. She's been famous for that. Never, she just doesn't care.
Yeah.
And therefore she has an incredible range.
Yeah. She goes
And
high,
yeah,
low.
and she's very creative for that reason
Yeah.
because you have to kind of recreate a little bit the melody, you know, at least a little bit, you know, because it's not going like this, it's going dude, and then so
Yeah.
really, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
she's an amazing singer.
but another LA singer I worked with for a while, I don't know if you know her, Jelsa Paleo.
Absolutely.
I worked with her after Jimmy Witherspoon, and it was 1974 or 5. And at the time, we were working like a lot at the Hyatt House on Sunset.
Yeah,
And so we would be there 3 months, contract for 5,
yeah,
6 nights a week.
yeah.
Um,
That was the
and
days.
and we had the trio.
Yeah.
Uh, and she was a great singer, entertainer, did all kinds of music, Stevie
Well, and
Wonders.
Bill played for her, Bill Lure.
Did he?
Yep,
Oh,
and
okay.
actually, maybe after you, Armando Campion played bass
Okay.
for her, and but yeah, I've bumped into her over the years, and yeah, she's quite the entertainer. You know,
Mhm.
I wonder why life got so far away from that because that was such a boon, really, to I think to the clubs and to
Yeah.
to private clubs or to hotels or whatever. Have a great live band. you know?
Hmm.
And it's a shame that it moved away from that,
Yeah, it's uh, economics, I guess,
I
part of
guess.
it.
Yeah.
And but we used to play at places in the valley. I can remember in Canoga Park for play a club for a month or two,
Yeah.
and they were all union gigs.
Yeah. I know.
I'm
I know. It's really too bad.
I've been out of the union for I don't know 35 years probably, but I was in LA Local 47,
Yeah. Yep.
which
Local 47.
I mean at the time they didn't help me too much personally because I wasn't really into the studios that much, and
Right.
actually the one thing they did do was this album I did with Carmen in San Francisco. I played electric and upright, and I never got paid for the double. So the union got me the money
Uh,
for the double. So
yeah, I think for a while I remember that the consideration was that they were more valuable for studio
mhm,
than live. But that didn't stop them from going around and kind of bullying the clubs and bullying the musicians who were
mhm,
working live for lower money than they were supposed to be, you
right,
know.
yeah,
Dante, well, I worked at Dante's, so it must have been that time period that I worked there that I saw that a lot, because Dante's,
mhm,
of course, paid like $3.
uh-huh,
And then it was hard getting it, you know.
uh-huh,
You had to like go in to find Carrie over and over again and schmooze
mhm,
with him and
yeah.
yeah.
I
Luckily,
used to play at the Carmelo's and the sound room. Do you remember the
yes.
sound room?
Actually, Ted Green and I were not the first, but amongst the first musicians who worked there.
Okay,
Yeah.
I
Da-
forgot who owned it.
David Abari.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he opened a place near the baked potato
Uh-huh.
upstairs. And that was actually a really nice room, but that was that was a, you know, not pay to play, but the cover was your money. And
Hmm.
but it was a good room. That was a big room, but the sound room that was a really nice little club.
Yeah. I thought who's the guy? Louis Gasca was involved with it, maybe.
With the sound room?
Yeah.
I don't think so,
No.
but I remember the name Louis
Uh,
Gasca, but it
yeah.
was David Abari's. Uh,
Right. I remember that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I used to work there. Kent Glenn
yeah,
had a 10-piece tentet,
yeah.
and we rehearsed at my house every Tuesday. And it was a great band. Steve Huffstetter, Jay Migliori,
Okay.
Luciati, and it
Huh.
was low brass, tuba, three bones,
Mm.
and rhythm section, and three and trumpet, tenor, and alto.
Kent was a
And
good writer.
oh yeah, these
Yeah.
are. And actually, I'm the librarian. I was the librarian. At least I have all the charts
Get out
for
of
the
here.
10-piece band. Yeah,
You're kidding.
so I
You ever
was.
play them?
No, but I was thinking about recording them sometime down the line. They're really good, original
Yeah.
tunes, the arrangements, and we used to
Wow.
play at the sound room and
Yeah.
other places.
I think of him also along the same lines as David Angel, who actually is
Yeah, that's
playing a
right.
bunch now. He just played somewhere and I totally missed it, but it might have been Catalina's just like last week.
Yeah, he kind of had a small big band.
Yeah. And unusual, kind of
Hmm.
interesting and unusual, like Kent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really nice. I think of this actually a lot because I've been around, so long. The the younger people coming up now they're coming up with really unusual sounds,
Hmm.
unusual charts and arrangements and mixing mixing instruments, like bringing in cellos and
Right.
just and then mixing kind of grooves in there
Mhm.
So, but I do think about the fact that that I bet a number of them hadn't really heard the Kent Glens and the David Angels, and
Yeah.
and Steve Hofstetter, and that's really kind of their lineage.
Right.
They should know that music, you know.
Yeah. Well, one thing that's different now. I mean, when we were growing up and we started playing, we would be playing with older guys than us.
Yeah.
They were, had mentors or just that had more experience. And nowadays, at least in Portland, the young new Lions, they're playing with their peers.
Yeah.
And there's a couple, piano players I played with that are interested in playing with guys, like me, has been playing a long time, I think that loses something. I mean, I enjoy, I like all kinds of music, Latin, but my main thing, I like swinging,
Yeah. This brings to mind a few things. Well, first of all, yesterday I had an interesting conversation with a bass player named JB Dias, and he's the vice president of education and curriculum at the Herbie Hancock Institute, which previously had been the Thelonious Monk Institute.
Right.
And really interesting and inspiring conversation. But one thing that they do is they have, which I love the name, peer-to-peer touring.
Mhm.
So what they do is they have, like a group of, I think I'm not sure if it's the high school kids or the college kids. I think it might be the college kids, but they take them on the road with a veteran player,
Mhm.
and they travel around the country, and they will put on a performance and give a workshop. And then it's not the veterans who do the teaching, it's the kids.
Okay.
So they'll sit, like the bass player will sit with the bass player and say, oh, try this.
Right.
That you're doing it, and they sounded great.
Mhm.
Really good. You check out the website,
Okay.
the Herbie Hancock Institute. You'll be impressed. I was, and like they had a video of the kids. I call them kids because they were, young college. And every person who played, I thought, wow, she sounds great. Wow, that's like, and then the next person is like, wow, he sounds great. All of them. And like all year long, every week they get to hang out with Herbie Hancock. And then the next week they get to hang out with Wayne Shorter. And then the
That's
next week.
nice.
I mean, can you imagine all year long they're doing
Yeah.
that? I mean, so it's really, I I think it's super valuable and wonderful to have the veterans involved in the,
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, when I was in college, there was no jazz major. That came later. I mean, and what I've learned was just through playing, listening,
Yeah.
listening to
Mhm.
records. I mean, I really didn't study jazz with anyone.
Yeah.
Well, I learned a lot from Kent Glenn. Just playing
Mhm.
with them a lot and songs and in LA, I work with a lot of singers, some good, some mediocre, some not so good.
Yeah, yeah. But that'll teach you. It's the
Yeah,
experience of the whole
yeah,
thing. Yeah. Like
and
me
just
too. I mean, I was working 10 gigs a week,
mhm,
doing all different kinds of gigs, and come on, we fell on our face a lot,
mhm,
and we picked ourselves up, and went
right.
on and did it again the next day, So, yeah.
So I mean, I think credit-wise, maybe I'm halfway through college. I didn't make it all the way. I was just interested in playing, you
Yeah.
know, and that was my thing. And so I went to Cal State Northridge, was playing in the big band, and meeting people, and met some guys, and we were playing just jam sessions at school, and we got this gig in Vegas with this group. It's a rhythm section, and Ron Barrows, the trumpet player.
I know that
he's
name.
LA. He
Uh-huh.
was in it, and it was with Ginny Two and the Two Sisters. Ginny Two was this Chinese girl. When she was 7 or 8 years old, she was on the Ed Sullivan show, like child prodigy, playing Flight of the Bumblebee.
Oh man.
And then this is it was like in the 70s, and they hired this group I was in, the back Ginny Two and her two sisters, TU, and we played at the lounge at the Hilton Hotel that had just opened, and we were in between Wilson Pickett and another group. I forgot. And we were playing all these medleys, and she would do these piano extravaganzas, and one of the sisters did a Louis Armstrong invitation. And we worked there for a month.
Oh, that's funny.
And, that was my first Vegas gig.
Hey, let's go hear some music.
Yeah.
I saw something that I think is interesting. This one, the Portland Calling.
Oh yeah, it's my. Oh no, not that one. No.
No.
No. That's not my regular band. They're subs.
Oh.
If you want to play there's some the album, my latest album, Portland Calling. If you put that in, the album will be there.
Well, is it through CD Baby? Because they can take me off.
Really? If you play that?
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, that's why I like to go to your own.
Well, there's that one right there. That one.
Okay.
That's besides doing an interview.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So what's the most difficult thing of bass technique?
Well, there's bass players that like Milton Hinton that probably never study, and it's pretty it's any way you can get what you want to want to play, whether you have technique, studied uh, method, or or just learned on their own. I mean, bowing is another thing, that really gets your intonation using the bow. And, that's what I was studying and learning some different concertos with my teacher.
Uh-huh.
But nowadays it's just trying to keep it all together because, I've been, playing with pain for a long time, in your thumb joints, and, the one thing, this is back in the late 70s, early 80s. I have a friend, Mark Proctor, who's a bass player, and he said, "Hey, you should try using gut strings on the D and G, because that's what a lot of guys use. Like my heroes, Paul Chambers, and all these bass players used to use gut strings on the D and G, and there's more of a legato sound and just the sound of a gut string." And I did that, and I really liked it. It took me a while to get used to when you're playing over from like the D to the A and E. The gut strings have different tension. So, and then I realized, well, luckily I have two instruments, basses. One I bought from my teacher. It's an old German bass and has a darker sound. And my other bass, which I actually found at a music store in Westwood, California.
Oh.
And it belonged to Lee Sklar, I found out. And
one of the greatest bass players ever.
Yeah, electric. And I kind of look at my basses as car models. My old German bass is like a Rolls Royce, and my other Czech bass is more like a Porsche, and it responds differently, has a brighter sound.
Yeah.
So so I have gut strings on, and I realized if I'm playing, well, I've never liked the pickup and the amplifier. I did it. That was the thing to do if you're a bass player and you want to be heard more. But if I'm playing with acoustic instruments, I play acoustically, period. I sold my amp and all that stuff like 35 years ago. And
really?
Yeah, so I have to, I have to engage the bass, pull harder or something,
Yeah.
But
Wow.
it was funny. I was doing this, and I had a big band gig down in Orange County. It was just swing music, and we start playing, and we're playing, and the leader comes over while we're playing. He says, "Hey, can you turn up?" I said, "Okay, sure." And after that, everything was fine. There's nothing to turn up. I just maybe played a little harder, but so that's, and I can be heard, but that
that must
playing
be
this,
very rare.
there's not too many. There's some guys in New York that are just doing it. And if I'm playing at a bigger venue, I don't mind miking it. I have my own mic.
Yeah.
But in Portland, all the places I play, my bass, everyone can hear it, and that's just. And I'm doing my bit for energy conservation, saving a couple watts for PGE.
I see. Hey, but speaking of I see a flyer that says Linda's Restaurant. Was that from the LA, Linda's?
Yeah, that one, actually, it's a picture of Alan Broadbent and putter, and we have a good friend, Bob Ross, who is amazing. artist, painter, and he did that painting.
Oh, that's so cool. In fact, I was just thinking of putter right before I asked that. So but I
Yeah,
didn't realize that was putter because I can't really see that.
yeah.
But yeah, that was such a hip club in LA.
Yeah. But where were we?
Where were we in our conversation, or where were?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. We were
yeah,
wandering around.
yeah. But for moving on, the '80s kind of like things just really dried up for me, and I don't know, people moved out of town that I played with, and I had to do something, and I ended up working at my dad's and his partner's business, which was commercial photography, graphic arts, and printing under one business. So they trained me to operate this big offset camera that makes negatives. And I worked there for 5 years. And I was still doing gigs and actually kind of eliminating ones I didn't want to do in the first place.
Yeah.
But I was just getting a little less sleep because I had to drive to like little Tokyo area downtown from the valley and all the traffic every day.
Yeah.
But it was probably the most consistent money I've made in my life. And I learned how to appreciate the weekends.
Weekend, what's
yeah. Even working 40-hour week. But
yeah.
it was a good experience, and I was still playing.
Uh-huh.
And I kind of retired when my dad and his partner did, 1989.
Uh-huh.
And I had a couple friends that had moved here, Dick Berk and Phil Goldberg, piano player. I came up and visited, and it looked like a great place. And I worked with Phil, my friend, on a couple gigs when I was visiting. And I moved up here about 4 months later. And I love the rain. I don't miss the Southern California climate,
Yeah.
mild. And the work was happening here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Didn't Phil live in LA for a
He
minute?
did, yeah. He was from there. Yeah, Phil Goldberg.
Yeah. And of course, Dick Berk, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was a character.
Oh yeah, I love Dick. He's on one of my albums.
How many albums do you have?
Well, the first one was an LP, which I hopefully I'm going to release that on CD or just downloads.
Yeah.
But I have a total of 6 as a leader. And that's nothing. When I did my first album, I kind of shopped it around and didn't get any buys, so I said I'm going to release it myself.
Yeah.
And I did some research, and I started this label, and I called it Vision Records. And about a year later, I get a letter from a law firm. We represent Vision Records in Florida, and you cannot be using this name anymore. And I did more research, and actually, I started the same year as they did, and I could have maybe fought it but I just said it's my name. So when I got up here, I started a new label. It's called Safu Records. And I started releasing them, my stuff on it. And then some friends here and a friend in LA, Keith Berry. I don't know if you ever knew. He's a jazz violist, but he's a multi-instrumentalist. And he did an album. And also, I've always been into recording myself, even when I was a kid in my teens. I just record, jam sessions. And so now, and I record just with 2 microphones. And I've recorded a couple of my albums that way, and I've recorded albums for other people. And it's my living room. I have a great living room with vaulted ceilings, and I have a nice 6'9" Kawai piano. And So I've recorded my projects and other people's projects,
Huh.
and I recorded a couple CDs by Ben Wolf. I don't know if you know Ben, bass player.
No, I don't know.
He's been in New York. He teaches at Juilliard, and he was with Harry Connick for a long time. And so I started my own label, and there's 22 releases on them as of now.
Wow, pretty
But
cool.
you know, I'm not a big heavy record executive, and
You're not?
Oh no. It's funny. God, it's been a while. A guitar player, Mark Elf. I don't know if you know him. He's from New York.
Yeah.
He's a
Yeah.
good record player. He came out here a couple times. I worked with him, and he has his own label. And he said, "I'm on the phone hours every day, just hustling," and that's just not me.
Yeah, I mean, if you
Yeah.
really want to be a record label,
Yeah.
it's a lot of work. John Bishop,
Oh,
I
oh yeah.
my last recording, I actually went with Origin,
Or-
and I mean, he's still a great drummer, but I mean,
Yeah.
like I forget who his partner is. He's his partner.
Matt Jorgensen,
Yeah,
drummer.
so
Yeah.
great player. So it's nice to have at least one other person working with you on that stuff. And I'm sure
yeah.
they're in a groove because they've been doing it for 20 or
Oh
20
yeah.
years.
Oh, they have several hundred releases out. Yeah, they're great. I mean, I try to do. You know, I have a Japanese distributor that I've been did that with for the last 10 years. And they buy some quantities here and there.
Uh-huh.
But I don't know about CDs anymore. If
Well,
they're going out.
but Japan, I think, will still have a need for and a desire for CDs for a while. I've been to Japan a lot, and if it wasn't for Japan, I might just get rid of all my CDs. But because usually I go at least once a year, and I'll sell at least 50 to 100. So that's actually a little chunk of change, and my supply of CDs is going down inch by inch. But yeah, there's now I feel like we're kind of in this pivotal point, like what is going to be the future of our making money with our recordings. And I think that there is something in the future, but I'm not sure what that is at this moment.
I think it's good to have a physical product. It's a document of what you've done.
Yeah.
And especially like 50 years ago, making an album, that was like a big thing. And now people with equipment, electronics, and digital, you can record at your home and have good quality recordings.
Yeah.
So,
have you been doing projects digitally in the last 2 years?
well, yeah, that's originally I bought these two microphones that a friend recommended. They're B&K, and they're called DPA now, made in Denmark.
Uh-huh.
And I go directly into I have a Korg. It's called the MR1000, which is it records at 1 gigahertz. It's like, when they had super CDs came out.
Yeah.
Really, this one is double that as far as recording range you get. And but in the long run, it all comes back down to release a CD with 16 bits. So, but they say with this recorder, you get a broader picture of what's happening. And these two microphones I have are amazing. And it's just the placement of instruments in my room, because, two microphones. And I try to get a sort of closest sound of all the instruments, but also there's the room sound. And to me, it's like you're sitting in a club. I mean, it's not like, it's different than something you would go into a recording studio where everyone is isolated.
Yeah.
There's no bleeding. So, but that kind of I mean, when you do go and do multi-track recording in studios, you know, you can get great sounds on each instrument, but then you got to put it together. And that's the hard part, you know, mixing it and, getting the right thing.
Yeah.
And with the two mics, that's it, when it's recorded,
Yeah.
and I like the sound that I get, it's different, but it's a real natural kind of recording for me.
Yeah. No, we should just try to hear one thing. And so would I find it on YouTube?
Yeah. Is that bad?
We could try it. Let's see.
Just Ed Bennett, Portland Calling.
Oh, okay. So. Well, oh, here we go. Okay. Oh, it's under you, actually. It's not under C.
No, it's me.
Okay, so I think we're okay for that. Portland Calling. And the musicians, Paul was the pianist we heard first, right?
No, it's Paul Mazzio on the trumpet, and Tim Wilcox on tenor, and Dan Gaynor's the pianist, and Tim Rapp is the drummer.
Okay. Yeah, and these are all guys, Portland guys?
They are.
Okay. Great. And that really did sound great.
Thanks.
The quality of recording,
I
very
mean,
nice.
and to me, it sounds different than like if you were in the studio, which
Yeah.
is, I don't know, but it's what I like. And hopefully other people do.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds really good. Yeah, it's definitely, it has a really nice presence. Yeah, I think it's great. And a nice song too, and great playing.
Yeah, this is the first CD that all my original tunes on it.
Ah,
So
nice. And the tenor player is tenor, right?
yeah,
Yeah. What is his name?
Tim Wilcox.
Yeah, I really liked his sound a lot.
Yeah,
Tim Wilcox. I have to write that down.
with two L's.
Wilcox. Cool. Yeah, really nice. So what are you doing these days? Are you teaching as well?
I've never been into teaching per se. I mean, if someone comes up to me and wants to study, I'm always open, but I've never
Gone
thrown
after.
it out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
what are you doing these days?
well, getting back to some work. I mean, I wear a mask if I'm playing inside.
Uh-huh.
I with Tony Passini. He has a trio with this drummer that's on my last Tim Rapp, and we've been playing together for 21 years.
He has a great feel. I noticed that the first song.
Yeah, he's into Finest Newborn, Oscar.
Excuse me.
Bless you. And Monty Alexander, he's into those guys, and we've been playing every last Friday of the month at Wilf's, which is at the train station in Portland. So we've been playing there 15 or 16 years. And we used to have a hotel gig every like second weekend of the month until COVID. And but just miscellaneous gigs. I have a gig with my quintet next week down in Salem, Oregon, which is about an hour away. But there's a bunch of musicians that don't feel comfortable playing in pub, with the pandemic. Yeah. So it's been a little slower than usual, but I don't know if things are going to pick up. I don't think there's going to be the same old normal. There's going to be a new normal, whatever that is.
I mean, life changes anyway.
Yeah.
But so. Yeah, LA actually has a shitload of music happening.
Oh, that's good.
Like lots and lots. And I do go to the occasional theater thing. Like I went to the Count Basie's band last week because I've never seen Count Basie band live, and I went, and Liz Wright was the singer, which was great. I had never heard her sing jazz, and that was great. And I was, my husband and I were, for some reason, I booked the top level of the balcony. I don't know why. I really don't know why I did that, because I looked down, there was lots of seats. And we were at the very front, the very front two seats on that balcony, sitting behind each other. That was the thin kind of balcony.
Yeah.
And my mask was kind of hanging off, and the guy, the watcher, he actually came and told me to put my mask on. I was like, you got to be kidding. There is nobody here. And it's like, the huge ceiling. Really? And anyway, but then when I go into a club, there's a really nice club called Sam First here, which is near LAX. Very small room. And I can go in there. I mean, you have to check in at the front, but you can go in, you can sit there without your mask and just feel comfortable. You get up, you're supposed to wear your mask, but people don't, it's very much more comfortable. So I kind of would rather do that at this point, but, and then playing, I have a gig outside at a club that has a really beautiful outdoor patio.
Nice.
And So we play outside, which is very comfortable. And I just played Vitello's the other night, and that's been comfortable. And yeah, so there's a
Well,
lot of music happening.
yeah. Well, luckily, LA has the weather where outside things can still happen year round, maybe.
Mm.
Here, it's starting to get cooler and more rain. And, there's a lot of places. I work, there's a little wine bar just down the street from me, and they have built an enclosure outside, like on the sidewalk. And, they put heaters in there, and, it's out kind of outside,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
covered, but it's getting rainy, and, it's, it's a little harder to do that up here.
On a whole other note, I'm just curious because I hear bad rumors about homeless in Portland. Is it true? Is it like so really terrible there?
It's pretty bad. Yeah. I mean, I haven't driven downtown in a long time, but I did have to do last week, go through it, and there's tents just on the street, in front of stores, and I don't know how they're gonna fix it. And I think it's happening out in LA too.
I think it's happening all over the world.
LA is just so huge and spread out.
Yeah.
It's.
Yeah. You
Port-
notice it only if you go into certain areas.
I mean, the downtown Portland, you can walk from one end to the other in 15 minutes. So
Yeah.
but outside, I'm in the metro. I'm about 4 miles southeast or east of downtown, and there's areas where the homeless, they're all over. Yeah, I don't know.
I wish we had government, national government that actually considered it, one of the top problems to solve.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get why
Yeah.
they don't. And I mean, I know there's a lot of wonderful organizations working on it, but I just think that the national government should have it as a crisis, which it is.
Yeah, I mean, there's some of the people are just down on lost jobs, and they lost their home. There's probably a good percentage that are meth addicts or drugs, and a good portion of mental illness.
Yeah.
And and a lot of people don't want to live in a shelter or even a place that has a roof over it. They like living in their tents wherever.
I found out this year that LA County, so LA County has, I forget the name of it now. I can't remember what it's called. It's a special group of people who are qualified helpers in,
Oh, yeah.
mental health and the various things. It's a small group, like between 5 and 10 people, and they're paid for by LA County to go and address certain areas and to handle it, which they do, and they get some volunteers, but the funding has gone down for it.
Right.
It's like, really? Why?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's there's so much to do, isn't there, Ed?
Yeah,
On planet Earth, shit,
there is.
so much to do. It's wild.
But I've been pretty lucky moving to Portland, and I had a long association. I don't know if you know Mel Brown. He's a drummer. He's from Portland, and in the 60s, he was one of the drummers on staff at Motown. He worked with Supremes, Diana Ross, Stevie Wonder, all those people. He came back to Portland, and he's a great jazz drummer. And it's interesting. When I first came to Portland, there's Mel Brown and another great drummer, Ron Steen. And these guys were employing musicians. I mean, they had Mel's working 5 nights a week. Ron is the godfather of the jam session scene here in Portland. Sometimes he had 2 or 3 sessions a week going. And I started working with Mel at Jimmy Mac's, which was it was the main jazz club here. And unfortunately, Jimmy passed away, and they were in the midst of moving the club. So we were playing there every Wednesday. Mel had 3 bands at Jimmy Mac's. He has a septet, like a Art Blakey kind of deal, and then he had a quartet with me, Tony Bassini, Dan Balmer, guitar player, and then he had a Hammond B3 organ band on Thursdays with tenor and guitar, and then Mel had a Friday, Saturday night gig at a place called Salty's, which was a restaurant on the river, Columbia River. And I worked him in the trio for about 12 years, Saturday nights. So it was pretty interesting that 2 drummers in town were employing a lot of musicians.
Yeah, that's wild.
Different bands. And but things are starting to come back, and the newest club now is a place called the 1905. And they have music 7 nights a week, and they're finally charging reasonable covers, because in Portland, covers weren't any, or real minimum, maybe $5 cover. But now all places are charging, depending he gets people from out of town, $10, $15, $20, $30 cover. They're coming from New York and playing there. And the hours are shorter, which is nice, just 2 sets. And so I kind of like that.
Yeah, I do too.
Two sets a night, that's enough.
I know. I agree with you. We also have a house venue that some of us play. He's a friend of, he used to be a musician who played like what we were talking about before, weddings and stuff, and also clubs. Alan Goldman. He was a piano player mostly, and then he started getting to be a woodwind player. Then, and he was working a lot, and then he bought a house in Highland Park that was, just like a fixer-upper, right? Because there was that time period that people just, Highland Park was nothing fancy, right? It wasn't gentrified yet, and then he bought this business that was in the textile industry, but it was not textile. He made something that protected machines from overheating or catching on fire, that kind of thing. He did really well, and never had a family, so he, basically had his money all for himself. And he started adding on to his house. So now he has this beautiful room that holds 70 people.
Nice.
And it has a bar. That's the most important thing. And he has all kinds of instruments. He has a gorgeous 9-2 German piano, and lighting and sound. And so I bring people into that place, and I find it hard to work outside of that place because it's such a beautiful spot.
Right.
Although people don't love driving up to Highland Park because it's up in the hills, and it's just your neighborhood parking, which can be hard. And but it's such a great spot to perform. So I've performed a lot there, and other people have performed there too. It's beautiful. You can't kind of, Do you have home venues?
Yeah, we have some house concerts in Portland, and also there's a couple of people on the coast, Oregon coast, that do it. One thing that I don't know if it's happening all over, but piano, there's only 2 or 3 venues that have real pianos.
Yes.
The rest, bring a keyboard, and which is it's different, not the same.
Yeah, I know. We have a few. We have Catalinas,
Mhm.
Vitellos, Vibratos. So those three right there are,
That's
kind of the main venues anyway. There's a place in San Pedro, which is part of a music store called Alva's. They have a beautiful room, but it's in San Pedro. So
Mhm.
it's a bit of a schlep for people to go to unless there's a crowd that you have in San Pedro. But beautiful room with a beautiful piano. So yeah, but of course, just the other places are definitely like
Mhm.
bring your own,
Yeah, I think that's the norm.
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of places can't afford to invest in a good piano and maintain it, you know.
I know. It's
So
true. Did you ever hear of the Blue Whale?
I've heard of these clubs. I haven't been there. Yeah.
Yeah, well, they closed last year, but they had a beautiful piano and
Mhm.
very international crowd would come there
Mhm.
play and to hang out, and it was a really, really good room. But and he held on for probably close to a year during when the pandemic started, and
Mhm.
then finally he spent a lot of time in Korea because he's from Korea, and so he was just kind of holding on. And I don't know, his landlord was not the most super friendly, helpful guy. So I don't know what he was doing, but
Mhm.
so yeah, that
Yeah.
closed. But and that
Yeah.
good piano. I'm trying to think of other places that have pianos, but yeah, having a piano, it's a little challenging.
It is. Yeah. One of the places, bands I was in that I really enjoyed was with Pat Britt. You know Pat Britt and Wilbur
He's still
Brown.
around. I bump into Pat Britt actually.
He's still living. That's good.
He's old, but yeah, I bumped into him actually not very long ago. A friend of ours passed away named Bob Irvine,
I
who,
know Bob Irvine. He played piano.
yeah, and he was a friend of Kent Glenn's.
Maybe because when I was in high school, uh, there was this band that rehearsed at our school at nights, and they were all guys that work at Litton Industries. They had the science day gigs, but they played instruments, and Bob Irvine played piano.
Yeah, he did. He was a nice guy. He in my neighborhood, like I could walk to
All
his
right.
house. And yeah, he collected art and he collected a bunch of instrumental type of stuff, like he always had, not expensive instruments, but new instruments hanging around his house, like if he
Mhm.
played trumpet, he would pull out a trumpet, that kind of thing. But he passed away it kind of came up suddenly. He did get cancer, it kind of came up suddenly. And so his family came and somehow I heard about it and I went over to the
Mhm.
house and I got a few things that were more sentimental for me. And Pat Britt was there.
Okay.
And he and I think he and I bumped into each other at Gene Stone's funeral.
Right. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, Pat Britt, he was
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah. So he had a group called Britton Brown with
Uh,
Wilbur Brown, who's a great tenor player. Played
Gilbert
with
Brown, yeah.
played with the different people, and Kent was playing piano, and Lawrence Marable on drums.
Oh, he was great.
Yeah, and we played at the Improv on Sundays.
Oh wow. Yeah.
And it's the same band. I think I was gone, but then they moved to the Cat and Fiddle
Yeah.
and did a jam session there for years.
The Cat and Fiddle. Yep. That was a long time ago.
Well, I'm dating myself.
Well, no, I was just thinking about that. I mean, they played there for a long time. That was an interesting gig, actually.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And the Improv, I kind of remember that happening too.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, when I hear about these gigs, I'm just reminded that it's kind of easy to go create a gig.
Yeah.
You get an idea and then just go to the place and, talk to them about it. Let's,
Yeah.
you know, I always convince my students, they're always kind of going, well, it's so hard to get a gig at Catalina's, or I'm
Yeah.
like, forget about Catalina's. Go start your own gig. Find
Hmm.
a little restaurant in your neighborhood, or and go sell. Just talk to the people and sell them on doing a Sunday brunch or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. There were places like that when I was living there. I mean, I used to sub. Leroy Vinegar had a gig in Hermosa Beach with a guitar player. It was called Millie's Seafood Restaurant. I would sub for Leroy, and
Uh,
it was great. Playing this little lounge, and they give you a great dinner, and
yeah, I remember Leroy.
yeah,
He was a cool guy.
and he had moved
Didn't
up
he move
here.
up to more Portland? Yeah,
Yeah, middle '80s.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. He was a really cool guy and just a superb player.
oh
See,
yeah.
you never hear his name around anymore.
Hmm.
People just don't bring his. They don't. I mean, well, I mean, I shouldn't really complain because there's so many musicians that have
I
played,
know.
done wonderful things.
Hmm.
There's a guy, a trumpet player. I forget his name. It's a very unusual name. It's a name that you should remember. But anyway, his niece is hanging out on the jazz scene. She's probably in her 50s or 60s, and he hasn't played for a long time, maybe 20 years, but he was big in Chicago, and he played with like Nancy Wilson and a whole bunch of people. Never hear his name, and it's an unusual name. You would remember,
Right.
and he's it's great to talk to him because, man, I mean, picking people's brains about the old days, it's just wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to play with Chuck Manning.
He's still hanging.
Actually, this was before he had the LA Quartet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was playing with him when Isla was playing trombone, and
Oh,
Jim Slaggy
Jim
and
Salagi.
Jack Ranelli.
Yep.
So we used to play together.
That was a good band.
Yeah.
V.R. Smith sang with Jim Salagi for years.
Uh-huh.
Every week he would come over and they'd play. And that was how she actually finally got out of the house and was singing.
All right.
But yeah, in Isla, they
Yeah.
played. Um, and
Yeah. And I used to play with Larry and Dave Koontz.
that was,
Yeah.
what? They played so good together, didn't they?
Hmm.
Well, I did a gig with them, two of them, and I just couldn't believe that they were, I mean, yeah, they're father and son, but they were from the same musical universe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of great players.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of great players in Portland, either local or people that have moved here
Yeah.
from all around the country.
Yeah.
It's a small town. Once you've gone to a couple jam sessions, you meet everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it, I'm trying to think of a really good jazz singer who lives there, not Nancy, but,
The ones that I've worked with, Marilyn Keller is a great one. Shirley Nanette.
see, I don't
Probably
even
have.
know these names. Yeah.
Shirley was she was the first winner of I think it was Star Search back in the day.
Interesting.
But yeah, and
Oh, Kelly.
Kelly Broadway.
No, Kelly.
There's
Broadway.
Kelly Johnson.
Yes.
She's in Seattle.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. That's why. She's in Seattle. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Well, last time it's been a while since I was in Portland, but
Did you sing here?
yeah, but it was so long ago. The last
Yeah.
time I was in Oregon, I was in Bend.
Okay.
It's not too far away, but and I did a workshop at a school with a guitarist who worked there. And the reason I was in Bend was because my daughter-in-law was living there for a few years. And so we would go up, a few times a year to visit. And yeah, but never quite made it over to Portland, although there was a singer in Portland who was kind of an instigator, a gig instigator, whose name I can't remember. There's just so many people that you come across. And you went to Japan, right?
Oh yeah, I love Japan. I went there a couple times with Carmen, and actually the last time I worked there, it's been a long time, but we had a 2-month gig at this club called the Blue Shell. It was in Roppongi, and they were bringing in groups for 2 months at a time from the States and I think maybe Europe. And Putter was there with a group. I think Danny Di Imperio on drums.
With Dave McKay?
No, but Dave was there at the same time. Andy McIntosh, alto player.
My dear friend who I dated for a minute, and he actually flew me over to England a few years ago and we recorded.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to send you that. I'm making a note.
Yeah. So Putter was there with the group, and the group after them kind of canceled out. And at the time, this drummer Dave Snodgrass was house sitting for Putter, and Putter said, "Hey, if you want to get a trio together, you can come to Japan for 2 months and play at this club." And so he got me and this piano player Butch Lacey.
Yeah,
he lived in San Diego, and then he moved to Denmark.
Oh.
And he actually passed away a couple of years ago. And it was a great gig. It's called the Blue Shell. The bandstand was his actual clamshell, huge. They built out of fiberglass. The bottom was fixed, like the bottom of the shell. And when the set was over, the clamshell was on pulleys. It would kind of start closing, and you would have to bend over to get out. But it was great. They gave you apartments, and the first month I was there, I probably didn't get to sleep till like 7 a.m. every night because it was hanging out at. There was a great club called Body and Soul, and it's probably still there.
Yeah, I sang there.
And the Mama San, and it would be just jam session, keep it open.
Yeah, there was. I can't quite remember, but in Tokyo, there was. Yeah, I can't remember the name of it, but there was an all-night coffee house jam, and it was a really cool scene. Really cool. I can't remember what. I think it was possibly near the Playboy Club, but I can't quite remember. But yeah, Body and Soul. I played with a Shakuhachi jazz player whose name I can't remember there. And yeah, Body and Soul. That was that was a nice club, actually.
Yeah, I love Japan. Actually, I met my first wife there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it wasn't meant to be,
Was she Japanese?
Yes, yeah. And but I'd like to get back there and play sometime, because I love the food.
I love Japan. It's definitely, I feel like it's my second home. I love the people, especially the artists and the country people. I love both of them a lot. And, I love that you can like go down into where the trolleys are and hear Charlie Parker over the loudspeaker.
Right.
And it's really a good place, and the food, I just absolutely love the food. Thank you. So anyway, you know what? It's been about 2 hours.
Wow, time flies.
It's amazing. I want to thank you so much for giving us the time of 2 hours.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Oh, Dan, you posted it so late, but I'm going to take a peek before we go. Dan has posted your all music credits.
I don't know if that's accurate.
Yeah, maybe it's not. maybe it's not all you.
It might, there's a Ed Bennett that is from England, that is a composer,
Uh-huh.
and he gets mixed up in the thing. But
Well, are you a producer engineer here with Ryland Angel and Heavenly Voices, and
no, that's not me.
you're not the trombone player?
No.
You might be the bass player on Dan Fanelli's My Ideal
Yes, Dan Family. Yeah.
and Kelly Broadway, because you already
Yeah.
mentioned that. So yeah, isn't that interesting that sometimes they kind of cross over, you know?
Yeah. I'm on some recording engineer credits, and I got one of Ben Wolf's CDs. I played Vibra-Slap. I'm credited with that.
All right. Well, I'm just going to say that the next 4 days, I will be on, but with archives. So tomorrow is a really good background singer who sang with sings with Peter Gabriel and a bunch of people, Lamont Van Hook. And then Friday, an incredibly talented Brazilian pianist, vocalist, composer named Clarice Assad. And her father and his brother were the Assad brothers, who were famous worldwide guitarists.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then Saturday, you'd be interested in this, a great singer in LA whose debut CD I'm producing, and Pierre Chambers, who's Paul Chambers' son.
Oh yeah. I think I'm a friend of his on Facebook.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and Sunday, an artist manager who manages John Clayton, amongst other people, Gail Boyd. And she actually has a show on every day at 2, a half hour. And as an artist, you just have carte blanche. You just do whatever you want. You can play, you can talk, you can cook, you can do anything. Really, it's a fun show. And next week, just so you guys know, the 3 live people I'll have on is Jimmy Greenfield from the Soapbox Galleries. Have you ever seen that? It's a
No.
really good East Coast digital, well, online venue, but also you can go there. They're in Brooklyn, and it's very nice. They have really a lot of great people, and he's an artist, and so it's the studio is kind of an art gallery. It's very nice. So he's going to be on Monday, and then Tuesday, maybe Lee Thornburg, the trumpet player.
No, I don't know him.
Okay, he's been here forever, and his wife, Cassie Miller, had been a really great singer who sang with a lot of people, a real beautiful girl. And then Wednesday, a singer who lived here for a long time as mostly studio singing, Michael Mishaw, but then he moved back to Nashville, and that's where he lives now. But he's a really interesting person too. So anyway, I'm just going to keep going until I don't anymore.
Oh, sounds good.
And Ed Bennett, it was very nice, an honor to have you on, and thank you for being on.
Catching up with things.
Yeah, exactly. It's fun, to have this long conversation,
Yeah.
So have a good Thanksgiving.
You too.
Thanks, and everybody out there too.
I'm a vegan now, so
so no turkey for me.
You. Yeah.
All right, well, eat good vegetables then.
Yep, exactly. All right.
Hey, Ed, thanks.
All right, thank you.